Well, England completing the formalities, getting over the line over Sri Lanka. The scoreline perhaps suggesting it was absolutely convincing. Sri Lanka did have their moments in that run chase, but really the damage was done up top in the second 10 overs of England's batting innings. Just 43 in the first 10, and then they went berserk, particularly one man, Jos Buttler, 101 of 67 in the able company of his captain Owen Morgan, finding vital runs at the right time, 40 of 36. In the bowling, it was as much about what the bowlers did as about how Owen Morgan controlled his bowling resources. Victory for England, and here we are on Cricbuzz Live to assess that win, with them now having qualified officially for the semi-finals. I'm in the company of Harsha Bhogle and Michael Vaughan. Michael, I was just mentioning off air that they were showing 85-15, 80-20 to England as a winning possible percentage. But Sri Lanka did have their moments when they were chasing towards the end.
Yeah, I think Sri Lanka have had the moments throughout the whole game. From the start, where they got England 3 down quite quickly. It's a masterclass from Jos Buttler. And then with the bat in hand, Hasaranga, he was putting England under a huge amount of pressure. England lose Tamal Mills, so that's always awkward for a captain. But I have to say, I think Morgan's captaincy was outstanding. The way that he manoeuvred the bowling, the fielding, everything about England's play today. I think it's almost as much as a message that they beat Australia in such a powerful fashion. I thought tonight was actually a better message because they got challenged. They were in a precarious position. They came out of it with the bat, and in the field, they were exceptional. Apart from that, Chris Woakes drop catch. England are fielding well. They're manoeuvring themselves well in the field. They're giving themselves run-out opportunities. And in Owen Morgan, they've got a very, very smart captain. It's a strong message. That victory against Sri Lanka, all right, they're not the most powerful team, but in every game Sri Lanka have played, they could have won because they're pushing teams all the way. And that's the closest England have been pushed by a Sri Lankan side. So they deserve a lot of credit, but I think it was a reminder that England are very, very strong.
Harsha, something you said after the Pakistan's second game against New Zealand. Perfect game against India, 10-wicket victory, and then perfect in a different sense against New Zealand. Would you repeat your thoughts here?
Most certainly, because they got the toughest of the conditions. With a dry ball on a slow, low wicket, Sri Lanka had to bowl in the first half. With a bowler short, with a wet ball, with a part-time bowler, they had to bowl in the second half. And England were really stretched, and trust Michael to search for the captaincy initiatives. I thought Morgan was fantastic. If you saw early on when Adil Rashid was bowling, he kept a square leg and a deep mid-wicket, deep backward square because the sweeping, and Charge told the batsman go over the top with the two left-handers. Got both of them caught on the edge of the circle. Then Jordan bowling the 18th over, getting Livingston to bowl. I mean, the bowlers stood up. But Livingston 17th over with a wet ball conceding 7 was fantastic. So, and I've always felt, we've been saying for years and years that the fielding must give you 2 wickets. How good is that catch by Jason Roy? Oh. Then Buttler completing the run out. The fielders gave you the 2 wickets. That Jason Roy catch, I mean, it won't even be on the scorecard. Can you imagine? Not even on the scorecard because it says Scott Billings.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the Buttler effort, Harsha, because just the body language, Michael, of Jos Buttler was almost like a young schoolboy who hasn't done much so far in the game, and suddenly he's affected a run out and he's saying, yes, I'm in the game. This guy's just scored 100.
Yeah, I think he absolutely adores playing T20 cricket. I think he gets a huge amount of buzz from the shorter format. I think it's his DNA. Test cricket is a game that he can play. He's done okay at, but I don't think he wakes up every morning absolutely desperate to play Test cricket. I think like MS Dhoni, he wakes up wanting to play the white ball game, and you can see it when he's out there. He's a smart player, destructive, but also just loves it. You can just see it, when he got that run out, the celebration. And I could tell by the celebrations from some of those catches that England knew that they'd been pushed tonight. You could just tell they were celebrating. The Jason Roy flick to Sam Billings, you could just tell that England knew that they were in a game. And it's a reminder, it's a little reminder for England that when it gets to the semi-final stage, and they're in there now, I also think they'll obviously finish top spot. I can't see how anyone's going to surpass that net run rate. T20 cricket, you can get beaten by anyone if you have an off 5 or 6 overs and the opposing side get 1 or 2 of their star players, and all these teams have real star quality players. have one of those periods. So it's a little bit of a reminder and a nervousness that'll be around the England camp that anybody can beat anybody in T20 cricket.
But you've kept your confidence up. You've mentioned the net run rate, 8 points, qualification, and there's a nice old scrap coming up between South Africa, Australia, Sri Lanka, just one game to go. So you reckon that they pretty much would be out of it. So it looks like a two-way fight between South Africa and Australia, unless the West Indies can produce something in their last two games and get to 6 points, Harsha. Otherwise it's pretty much between South Africa and Australia.
Yeah, but the West Indies have to depend on other things happening for them. Luckily for everyone in the group, South Africa have already played Australia. Otherwise, one of them would have gone off to 6 and beyond reach of some of the other sides. So, but I'll come back to this game. I talked about Livingston's 17th over, and Michael briefly mentioned some teams know how to win. Some teams keep their cool at the end. The fact that Sri Lanka got into good positions 2 or 3 times and then lost, you can call it luck one day, you can call it luck twice, but after a while, you just need to know how to close those situations. And some teams can and some teams can't. And Sri Lanka will look back at this T20 World Cup, because I don't see them qualifying from here, really. And they'll think, what if? Which is a terrible way to leave a tournament.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we saw the expression when Miller hit those couple of sixes and Rabada finished the game. That was really something you thought, okay, this is Sri Lanka's game. It was stolen from them. So I guess, yeah, that will be a story of what if. But just to finish on the fielding, want your thoughts from both of you. When you see a spectacular catch like the Roy Billings effort, you tend to forget the ones like David Malan took after that. If you look at Cricbuzz commentary, it actually says easy catch on the boundary. If you watched it, he was a millimeter away. His feet were on wet grass and he just about hung on to it. You've got to give credit for fielding efforts like that as well, Harsha.
Of course. And, look at who England's boundary riders were. I've always heard it said that wicketkeepers spend all their life with their pads on. They're not great fielders in the deep. Sam Billings at one and Johnny Bairstow at the other. Your two boundary runners are wicketkeepers. I mean, that Billings is lightning on the field whenever he comes in. If he comes in for 10 minutes, he's lightning. There's one save Johnny Bairstow put out. It's all these 2-3 things that add up to about 15 runs, 15 in the game. But that Malan catch, you're right. When the ball's in the air, you can't be looking back to see where the boundary rope is, because then you've got your eyes off the ball. Just had to have that instinct. Luckily for him, the ball found him too. But their fielding at the end was brilliant.
It's the kind of thing, Michael, these are the kind of boxes you want to be ticking going, as you said, there will be a day, you'll have a slight off day. It could come just before the semi-final, hopefully not in a knockout game for England, but they'd be looking to tick all the boxes. And of course, one of them was Owen Morgan finding form and then just getting together in the field and different bowlers contributing.
Yeah, I think winning before the knockout stage is both ways is important. England have won 3. Bowling first and now with the odds against them, I guess, batting first and with a bowler off and a very, very wet ball. They've won it quite comfortably in the end by 26. It's a night where I think the coaches get a pat on the back. When a team fields like that under pressure, I think you give the coaching staff a pat on the back, because they're the ones that take them out every night. They drill them, they give them pressurized kind of games to take that catch. They'll be making all sorts of games up to make sure there's a bit of pressure in the practice area to prepare for a night like that tonight. And I think the coaching and the preparation that this England side have, they've got the players, they've got the captain, they've got the backroom team. I think in Nathan Lehman, the Moneyball guy, the data guy, I think they've got probably the best in the business. They've got everything that you would require to go on and win a World Cup. But it's T20 cricket and anything's possible, as Sri Lanka have just shown us in the last hour or so. Quite easily, they could have won that game.
I'll just give you another example, Gautam. Look at the score when Hasaranga gets out. 129 in 16.5. So you got 19 balls left, and England have made 163. So you need about 34 runs. Everything tells you Dasun Shanaka, who's the not-out batsman, has got to be batting in the last over. And he got run out. Sometimes, what Michael said about knowing how to win. Your key player at that point, because Chamira can bat, Karunaratne can bat, but Shanaka was a set batsman. He had to be batting in the last over, and he got run out. It's little things like that that tell you that maybe they weren't there with finishing the game at the end. So, yeah.
I just don't think Sri Lanka are at winning stage yet. You know, I think they're a talented group. I think they're going to be so much better for this year's World Cup going into next year's T20 World Cup. I can see quite a core of a Sri Lankan side. I think they need another batter. They need probably another spinner. And I think they're going to be very, very close to being very, very competitive. They've been competitive this time, but I think the wickets have suited their style of play. It'll be a lot harder for them when they go to Australia to play with the kind of team that they have at the minute. But I do think they've got a core group of players that look like they could serve Sri Lankan cricket in the white ball game well for the next few years.
Also, this is the kind of stage, just to finish off on this, when Karunaratne was batting, Dasun Shanaka, whatever, the back-to-back wickets that fell. In the past, or not too recent past, you would have had a Thisara Pereira and an Angelo Matthews type player, vastly experienced, big hitters, probably being able to finish games off at an era when they did finish games.
To be a Sri Lankan fan and to hope Thisara Pereira finished the game was the most difficult thing in the world to do, because he'd do it a couple of times, and the number of times you said, yes, Thisara Pereira is there, and he'd pop it up and go. But yeah, I mean, he's someone who could give you 20 off the last over. We saw he did that in the World Cup final back in 2011, right? He got all those runs at the back end. But I still think Karunaratne has got, we saw that in the Sri Lanka-India series. So many times you're piloting the team home and Chamira can bat. So this, I think, is still okay in terms of depth. It was just that they needed Shanaka there at the end. But Michael's so good, so correct. Nisanka, good player. Asalanka, good player. I can't believe they started with Chandimal ahead of Asalanka. They need a number 4 who can be their 6th bowler. And maybe Dasun Shanaka needs to contribute a little bit more as captain, maybe bowl a little bit more. So otherwise, Rajapaksa, a good player. Hasaranga will go up the order. He told me at one of the presentations, I'm a batting all-rounder. For all his bowling, he's taken 32, 33 wickets. He says he's a batting all-rounder. He'll go up to number 6 in course of time. So they've got a really good core. Well, first of all, we don't know if the World Cup is going to happen in Australia. In the world we live in, we don't know what's going to happen next month.
Yeah, just add one more little element to that. Michael referred to it earlier. The 3 naughty boys who were punished in England will be coming back, and I think their addition will make a big difference to this, because they were all crucial players. You don't reckon, Harsha?
Yeah, look. One of them is a serial offender. I don't think they'll get him back. Danushka, Kusal Mendes had just turned the corner. I think Dikwela could be that person, but he's got to force his way back into the side. I think it'll be unfair on people like these players who've actually come through the hard way in their absence. So I'm not sure. I know they're playing in the US at the moment. They're giving them some game time, but I don't know. I think it'll be hard for them to come back.
Fair enough, but they were really at the time, at least
Dikwela especially, yeah.
Crucial players. But let's talk about the man of the moment, the man of the day, the man of the match, without even having to think anything about it. The guy who got the crucial run out of Dasun Shanaka and just, by the way, scored 100. Michael Vaughan, I mean, looking ahead at, be it a knockout game, be it whatever happens, he's the guy who's just leading the charge for England and leading it in style.
Yeah, and Rajasthan Royals better get a check out, because if they don't retain him, he's going to go for an almighty.
He might opt not to be retained, Michael.
In the next auction.
He might opt not to be retained.
Well, exactly. And you know what? It's only a short career. I think I'd do that if I was Josh Butler. He's going to be a much
unless you're retained one.
Across all.
Unless you're retained number 1, in which case you've got the biggest purse. Yeah,
but he's a brilliant player, brilliant guy. Everything about the way that he plays, he's just so smart. You know, and the innings tonight, there was more runs, but it was a better innings than he got against Australia. Against the Aussies, he was chasing low total, perfect pitch, had a go, fantastic striking. Tonight, I think he showed his absolute quality in terms of just kind of soaking up the pressure, knowing exactly when he was going to strike. He knew that he just had to hang in there. I'm sure him and Owen Morgan would have been probably saying 130, 140. That'll be enough on this kind of surface. And then you know what, he gets going, he gets to that really competitive score. Strike rate of 150, I've seen him have a better strike rate, but it was just so smart. He knew where the boundaries were on offer, he knew exactly when he needed to hit them, and he knew exactly when he needed to rotate the strike. He also runs between the wickets probably better than anybody. So he's got the striking, he's got the finesse, he's got the skill, he hits it 360. He's smart and he runs between the wickets better than anybody. You put that into a cake of being a batter in T20 cricket, It's quite a nice
Yeah, you
cake.
do put batter in the cake anyway, don't you? The kind of batter. Okay. Anyway, it started off being clever and ended up being a bad joke. There's something I wanted to ask you from what he said, though. Did you use your same bat, your favorite bat that you used in the game in the nets as well? Because Butler says, I use the same bat even in the nets. Interesting.
He's a freak. I wouldn't dare use my middle bat in the nets in case it broke. But these players, I mean, they have so many bats and they're all exactly the same. There's machines now. When I played, you were just hopeful of, I used to have the same guy at Gunham Moore who used to make my bats and he used to chisel out the wood and hopefully it felt like the one before. Now they have a machine that if you like a bat and a piece of willow, you just put the bat in the machine. It just completely copies it, the same weight, exactly the same shape. So all these players these days, they'll have 6 or 7 bats and they're all exactly the same. So no surprise that Josh just gets one out of the bat, uses it, smack. Oh, it's broken. I use another one now. It's the modern world, Harsha. They're so lucky, these players. They get everything.
But I think really to sum it up, Harsha, it was how different the innings was, and Michael touched upon it, from the Australia innings. The Australia innings was Josh Butler on a good pitch, entertaining everyone, hitting everything in the middle. But this was the conversations between him and Morgan. They'd play out a 1-run over from Theekshana and still be smiling. They'd be like, no, that's fine. Let's get it out of the way. Our time will come.
Part of it would come from knowing they're going to make the semi-finals come what may, given the cricket that they're playing. But also look what he says. He says, we thought we'd get past 120 first and then hope that the fast bowlers would miss their length at the end. So I think they surprised themselves a little bit to get 160 plus. Their initial plan was, let's get past 120 and see where we finish from there. But he said patience was the key for him. You look at Butler when he batted against Australia, and if you said to someone he thinks patience is one of his strengths, you'd say, yeah, I haven't seen any of it. And yet you saw that today. I love players who show you everything they can do and yet have something else in reserve for another day.
Yeah, Michael called 120 or 130 and he was more than happy with it at that 10 over stage and Combox. But I think
without the dew, it might have been okay. Without the dew, 130 might have been okay. But with the dew, no. Yeah.
And in the way Sri Lanka played, I think it showed that those extra few runs were invaluable at the end. But speaking of bats, quickly, Michael, since you mentioned the bats you used to play with, how good is it to see someone like David Wiese using a Newbury bat from the 1980s?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, a bit of rock and roll, old school, retro stuff. There's I don't quite see many using the old Gunham Moore Maestros or the Diamond that Mike Gatting used to use in the 80s, or the grey nickel power spot. We used to see the power spot. Or
with the 4 scoops? Yeah,
don't
the
see
4
too
scoops.
many of those, but
I remember, Michael, you'll probably laugh at this. You'll probably laugh at this because you played cricket at that level. But one of our teammates used to get bats from England. He was well-to-do. And he rocked up one day for our senior division game with a Stuart Surrey Jumbo. Remember Stuart Surrey Jumbos?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That was Gucci. Graham Gucci.
Didn't we play that afterwards for a while?
Jumbo,
Stuart Surrey Jumbo?
I think he used the Slazenger.
Maybe, but Slazenger. Graham Goose definitely was the SS Jumbo.
He put that SS Jumbo there, and can your mouth water seeing a cricket bat? And we were all there playing with our local make bats, and we were looking like this. And every time we went to the washroom, we'd quickly pick it up and put it back there before he came back. He was a test player, so he became a test player afterwards, Arshad Ayub. But when he brought that Jumbo, that's...
Well,
anyway.
Bats. Today, it was all about the Butler, the Batman for England. What an innings, what a victory for England in the semi-finals. But of course, we've got some more cricket coming up to look ahead to. David Wiese will be involved in one of the games tomorrow, but let's just tell you what lies ahead in the couple of games coming. The first one will be crucial for South Africa just to finish things off, because they'll need these 2 points on the board with the head-to-head against Australia to try and be the second team to qualify from Group 1. Bangladesh pretty much out of the reckoning. So for South Africa will be critical. And Bangladesh, remember, without Shakib Al Hasan. So it's going to be just a little bit more of an incentive for South Africa without the talisman in the opposition, Harsha. How much of a difference will that make to Bangladesh? They know they obviously can't qualify, but will it make more of a difference to South Africa? I can't even see what you're showing.
I will. I'm trying to show you Viv Richards batting with an SS Jumbo.
I knew you were busy doing that.
I love the Google.
Yeah.
Go quick.
No, a big game for South Africa. No Shakib. It's going to be a big advantage because Shakib's been bowling the difficult overs, comes in and bats at 3. So you need 2 players almost to replace Shakib. Your favorite is not there either. They've lost him too, which is Saifuddin. So who are they going to replace him? They'll probably replace him with Shamim Hussain and hope that Shamim gives them an over or 2 of off-spin bowling because they'll need that top order player unless they continue with Shoma Sharkar. Liton Das luckily has come back to form. I don't know what Nurul Hassan's fitness is because he was unwell for the last game. But Liton Das's form is a big plus for them. They need Mushfiqur Rahim to produce a big innings at some point though. But the loss of Shakib, they'll probably get Shamim to come in that batting role and bowl a little bit of off spin. I thought Shariful bowled well in the previous game. So Shariful and Mustafizur. So that area is covered. If Taskin can give them a good game, no, that'll help a lot.
One more name I'll throw in for you, Harsha. Nasum Ahmed. He showed he can bat the other day down the order and he bowls left arm spin. So if they want a bit of like for like to Shakib, maybe Nasum comes back in.
Yeah, possibly. South Africa. Let's look at South Africa. Quinton de Kock, David Miller, if they're playing on a good track. David Miller this year has been in good form. I'm looking at left-handers. Reza is right. Temba is right. They've got, in the top 6, they've got 4 right and 2 left. So I guess you could play 2 left-armers as well.
But yeah, Michael, I think
the top 7,
even though it was just 2 hits, for South Africa, seeing David Miller come back into vintage form, looking at a possible semi-final, they'll be delighted with that.
Yeah, I mean, in T20 cricket, you need all your facets working, your top order, someone in the middle playing consistently, but you need your finishers. Your finishers in really good, confident form. And those strikes from Miller, Rabada, that 6, I think it was in the 19th over. That was a big play in the game. So South Africa winning a tight game, you know T20 cricket, if you can win the tight ones, it gives you just a belief that you can win from any situation. I know for sure that the Australians will have Bangladesh shirts on tomorrow. They'll be all in the room watching that one closely because South Africa, Australia, I mean, the West Indies still could, in 2 games to go, they win heavily. They could easily get to 6 points with a decent net run rate. But I just think Australia, South Africa are the 2 that really look like the favourites, obviously, to get that second spot. So pressure from here on in on every single team, but in particular those that are fighting for that second spot. You're only a couple of wins away, but you're also only a 5 to 6 over real poor period in the game, and you could be on your way back out of this World Cup.
And as you said, Harsha, South Africa and Australia don't clash with each other. So they're on equal points, and they're looking to win their respective games. The doubleheader.
There's a lot of people who think I'm obsessed with net run rate because I've seen so many close matches with the close contest towards the end. South Africa, if they win and their net run rate goes up a little bit more, look how far down Australia are. Down there, Australia will have to win big to catch up with South Africa.
Yeah, that England game would have dented them mightily, and it just takes 1 game to do it. That's why we see someone like Afghanistan after that Scotland game, their run rate is sky high, and India will have to try and replicate that sort of a victory against Scotland and Namibia.
Yeah, if there's a 3-way tie there, India have lost to New Zealand, India beat Afghanistan, Afghanistan beat New Zealand. There's a very real chance Afghanistan will qualify with their net run rate.
Which is why India playing the last match against Namibia on the 8th of November, they will pretty much know what to do in that sense.
Yeah, so I mean, it got down to a situation in the IPL where a team had to win by 170 runs or something in a T20 game.
Well, so as long as it's not that ridiculous, at least that's the only advantage. If you have to look at a bright spark, it's the scheduling. Not great scheduling to have Pakistan, New Zealand up front, but at least Namibia being the last game. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Gautam, the schedules go to every team. Each team gets the draw. If they have any reservations, they can point those out before it's published. It's not that the draw is given to you and you say take it or leave it. They all have a draft draw. They look at it, they approve it. So obviously India were happy with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't really express a reservation about saying let's have Scotland up first. I just meant that from a neutral perspective, India start with 2 points, get confidence, and then play the bigger games.
Yeah, but I think that it also came up because of a 7-day gap, and Virat was not very happy with the 7-day gap. So yeah. Anyway,
I'm talking like a fan and not anyone trying to analyze. We all are. But it's a double header once again tomorrow. It's a double header at the same venue. Abu Dhabi in the afternoon is going to be South Africa against Bangladesh, and then Pakistan in sizzling form take the field against Namibia. Not that Pakistan's net run rate is going to be anything to be questioned at the moment in terms of their points, but how do they approach this game? India versus Namibia is going to be very different. Pakistan, Namibia, are you going to see them maybe resting a few players, Harsha?
I don't know. Doesn't matter, because that Pakistan team's pretty good. I mean, if you rest a Hassan Ali, you've got a Mohammad Wasim Jr. They talk highly of him. If you want to rest an Imad Wasim, you've got a Mohammad Nawaz. He's been playing around for a long time. That bowling side will look after itself. What they would like is a Shoaib Malik, a Mohammad Hafiz, a Fakhar Zaman getting some runs. My gut feel is if Namibia bat first, then Babar and Rizwan might just finish it off because their bowlers might be too good. The question is, does an Afridi or does an Aris Rao want to be rested? He might say, hang on, I could get 5 here if I get on a rhythm here.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, I must admit, when I start hearing of resting in T20 cricket, it makes me chuckle. It's 4 overs, 20 overs in the field. Get on with it. I mean, surely you just play the best team, the same team. Whatever you feel is that best team is on that given day. That, look, if it's tactical that you maneuver a bowler, you want another spinner or another seam, I completely get that. But when you're winning, just keep winning. And when you come up against someone like Namibia, send another message, hammer them. Just hammer them. That's what really good teams do. The Australian team back in the day, the 90s, early 2000s, they just used to steamroller everyone because they had that mentality of winning, and their coaching and their management would always say, the captains, come on, just to kind of rub them into it, absolutely kill them if you can. And that's exactly the mentality that Pakistan should have. I'm sure they will. They're a good team. They look like they've got a lot going for them. And if they get the chance to really, really, hammer Namibia and get that net run rate so far away, guarantee that you're number one. That's what Pakistan should be thinking tomorrow. Just guarantee that they finish top of that group.
Namibia, I did say that the man with the Newbury bat will be playing tomorrow, David Visa and his bunch of friends from Namibia. They've been doing really, really well. And you have to say, Harsha, one of the surprise packages for me was Jan Nicol Lofty Eaton. 5 games in a row, he didn't bat or bowl, but he was in the 11. And suddenly he comes, bats at number 3, bowls 4 overs, and their best bowler on the day.
I love
Explain that
players
to me.
like that, man. I was in the 9th standard in a school that had people up to 12 standard, right? So if you broke into your team, then you got to bat twice or whatever. So every time people turn up to a game, don't bat, don't bowl, go home, I feel a sense of kinship with players like those. But there's a couple of really good players there. Watch out for that Trumpelman. Both Trumpelman and Visa, they have benefited from the fact that the World Cup got pushed by 12 months, so they could fulfill their eligibility criteria to play for Namibia. They've got my favorite name among the entire group, Picky Ya France. What a name. I mean, if you got a name like Picky Ya France, you've got to be a player, man. But watch out for Gerard Erasmus.
Yeah.
I thought the innings he played against Ireland was just so composed, brilliant. I don't know if he can replicate it at this level. He's playing with a broken finger in the tournament. But they've had their heroes. I think the difference in standards a little too high at the moment, but they're a plucky side.
Yeah, the very fact that they made it to the second round, Michael, obviously this is a journey for them to try and learn what they can from every game. Now, as you said, they'll be expecting Pakistan to come hard at them. They'll know they're the form side. As Namibia, how are you going to approach this game? What do you want to take out of it?
Oh, you're just looking for improvement. They've almost won their World Cup by qualifying. They've come through what they would have dreamt of doing. They're now playing against all the top teams, and you're just wanting little bits of improvement throughout the whole tournament. The fielding, the running between the wickets, just the basics of the game. That the bowling and the batting, they're not at the same level as some of these teams, but the basics of the game, running between the wickets, fielding. It doesn't matter whether you're an associate or a test playing nation. You can be a really good fielding team. You can be a really clever running between the wickets team, because that's something that you can actually control. So that's what I'd be looking for. Can they improve upon that? Can they have 1 or 2 that just have a bit of a day out, smack a few into the stands? And, getting wickets at this level is not easy. And for some of those bowlers to pick up Fakhar Zaman, Babar Azam, it'd be great for them. I just hope they can improve upon the way. But they really have won their cup final by getting it to this kind of stage.
Yeah, wonderful story, and we hope the wonderful story continues in terms of everything they absorb from every moment of that game. Doubleheader coming up. We'll be there to look after all of it. But just before we go, a question that we asked you at the very start of the England-Sri Lanka game was our joy factor question. Michael, I reckon you were looking very hard at this one. Set a test record. You did say wicketkeeper in 2004. And in the same match, Sanat Jayasuriya was my first victim, which is unusual considering what I did. So I guess I can tell you you're right. You're right about the keeper. Who is it?
AB?
It's not. Well, AB could. It's not a bad shout. Zimbabwe? No.
Yeah. And Andy Flower. Did Andy Flower have a ball and pick up? Dave Houghton, Andy Flower.
But by 2004,
guessing,
2004 Andy Flower was gone.
Yeah.
2003 was the trouble. 2004 he was gone.
Not Gilchrist. Not Gilchrist. Tell me it's not.
No, it's
Gilchrist.
not. I believe it is Zimbabwe. So we've just got to get the right keeper then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think.
No, not Tatenda Taibu.
Taibu.
Let's have a look. It is youngest Test captain. That was a record. Little Tatenda Taibu took off the gloves and bowled for the only time in his Test career. His record as youngest captain was broken by Rashid Khan in 2019.
Tell you a funny story. We were in South Africa when Tatenda Taibu in Zim when Tatenda Taibu made his debut and batted at number 9 and went boom boom. Carl Rackerman was coach of Zimbabwe at that time. He'd never seen Taibu bat, and I knew him from Australia. And I said, Carl, he batted number 9. He said, mate, he's never going to bat number 9 again. They just didn't know about him. He was just a little kid. Remember Masakadza, Taibu, and the other guy. They all came from the same academy.
Yeah.
They did. And there was one young man, Taibu himself. I learned on the first day that Tatenda, by the way, in their local language means thank you. So every time I said, you have to address you, and I'm saying thank you. So I know I have to actually say thank you to you. And Taibu took me the first week I was there to a little slum in Harare and showed me this young kid playing with torn pads and said, look out for him a few years later. His name was Stuart Matsikaneri.
There you go. Stuart Matsikaneri. Correct.
Nice.
Well done.
Yeah, lovely.
So great stories that come out of there. The answer was Tatenda Taibu. The winner, let's have a find who our winner today of our Joy Factor question is. Satish Balaji. Welcome to the family, Satish. Love to see new names on the board. We love our regulars to bits, but we love to see new names on the board. So there you go. Tatenda Taibu. There's one of the little tricky ones that Joy had. It was a tricky surface. He had a couple of half volleys for us. Thank you, Joy. Keep this up. Keep this standard up. Thank you, gentlemen. Harsha, Michael.
Good night.
It's been a good victory for England. They're in the semi-finals. Could South Africa also take another step towards that tomorrow? We'll be there. Until then, from Cricbuzz Live, it's good night.